Running late by Charlie standards today. The father was hospitalised on Saturday night. Remember, I did reference he was ill last week. And, well, that just meant I awoke with no cup of tea made, and also nobody had been there to get my mother out of bed, so she was running late, and that caused everybody else to run late as well. Although I'm still at work early, I did have to stop off for petrol. It's a wonder I'm here at all, really, because I have spent the better part of the last 15 hours thinking I might end up calling in sick. Yesterday, the sister contacted me. She said, "Did I fancy a walk?" Like, yeah. We went up to the forest. We did a walk that I haven't done in years because without her I just can't find the paths. And getting to the top of it, due to the rainfall last week, it was very slippery. And rather than fall, because I never want to fall, I kind of started scrambling. And I think in all of that extra, I don't know what on my legs, but the arthritic pain that I already have, thank you, and the hypermobile joints, I think that the combination of all these things hasn't done it any good. As well as some upper body pain that I don't understand, but then, you know, these are human bodies and can they ever be understood? However, one thing, we finally finished reading The Great Hunt. It's done. Someone's knocking on the door, so I'll have to catch up with you later.
A few moments later.
And it's now the end of the day. So, I left you earlier, having just announced that I finally finished reading The Great Hunt, just as one of our volunteers arrived. Admittedly, as I said earlier, it was a bit later than I usually get here, but they were still here 20 minutes early. Today has been a rather quiet day in terms of donations and in terms of customers, and I think we only have the bad weather to blame. My mother sent me a message to tell me that they're taking my dad in for a scan and he's now finally on a ward, but I don't know whether that means he'll still be coming home today or what, so I guess I'll have more news on that when I next speak to you. In terms of The Great Hunt, what I want to say is just a continuation from last week, where I was not emphatic about the way Robert Jordan wrote women. There was something towards the end of this book where there were complexities within the way that women were portrayed towards the end of this novel. One part of me thinks that it was a good thing to do to show how sometimes people will behave in a certain type of way to save themselves, and it almost seemed like a harkening back to early waves of feminism. Obviously this is a very male author writing this, but what I mean is when certain types of feminism didn't actually work for all women, and it worked for the people in the higher classes, but they forgot the people in the lower classes, and it did seem like there could be some allegory for that here. And if I saw that, am I bringing too much of myself and my own thoughts into the novel? I don't know whether it's giving the book more credit than it's due to notice that allegory that may or may not be there. It could just be me. However, I did start reading The Mermaid, The Witch and the Sea by, is it Maggie Tokuda-Hall? This book was the January pick by Charlie for our Charlie Challenge. In the prologue of this, we see a young woman taking on the guise of a young man in order to survive on a pirate ship. And on this ship, what they are doing is they are getting a lot of rich people on board, believing that they're taking them off to like paradise and on a holiday, only for them to reveal after some time that it's actually a slaver ship and they've sold all of the people on there. Lady Evelyn Hasegawa has just come on board, and it seems as though our other protagonist, Florian, aka Flora, might have a romantic interest in her. Last night, whilst reading this, regardless of the darker goings on within the book of people being murdered and people being sold as slaves, there was part of this book that seemed like a fluffy Hallmark romance, minus the overt Christianity. But for now, I have to go and do the takings, the Tilrec, wash some cups that are still left over, and get on home. I've already heard that there's been a road traffic collision. It's not on one of the roads that I use to get home, but apparently traffic is pretty bad out there. But you know, rush hour on a Monday, what else are we going to expect? I also haven't decided whether I'll be listening to Classic FM on the way home. It has become a staple for me. And guess, Alcide, when a city. Let's ignore the mess that is my hair, as we regularly have to do, and just get on with things. It's actually rather late on Tuesday, because the best laid plans and all that. I woke early today and endeavoured to write, and I wanted to really have a full day of reading The Mermaid, the Witch and the Sea. I didn't. I reached page 160 last night. Well, I reached part 2 last night and have not had the chance to read yet today. It's currently 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Chatted to Charlie, as I do every Tuesday, but then both my brother and my sister arrived home. So we just chatted for a bit, and then I went out for a walk. So I actually planned today to do my long walk down the towpath that I've told you about before. It takes about 2 hours. I head all the way down to wherever and turn around and come back. And I rather enjoy that loop. However, as soon as I got on the towpath today, I recognised that my legs still haven't properly recovered from the walking that I did on Sunday. And so did my regular walk down the towpath, albeit somewhat slower and more aching, and then came home and continued to chat to my sister because she chose to come here to do some work. While I did get a little bit of writing done today, and it works into this new rewrite I've done to get us towards the end, not necessarily quicker, but get us towards the new ending that I planned last week. My dad did not come home from the hospital yesterday. The doctor said that they wanted to keep him in 5 to 6 days. It caused a bit of a row at the hospital because my dad has a lot of work to be getting done this week, farming wise, and tomorrow he's got to take all of his pups to the vets for the second jabs. However, my brother says that he will do that, so we've no worries there really. But we did receive a phone call within the last hour saying that he thinks he's definitely coming home this evening, and we'll see how that goes. In terms of The Mermaid, the Witch and the Sea, yesterday I described this book as reminding me in part of the fluffy Hallmark romances. Well, that changed. Firstly, we had this rather grim scene that left me feeling incredibly uncomfortable, and I had to put the book down for a minute, which saw some maiming and some violence towards one of our protagonists. Then we saw a revelation happen. It moves incredibly quickly. I believe that this novel is a young adult novel and it reads like it. I don't mean that to degrade the book in any way. I have liked what I have read so far, the way in which mermaids have been written about. I think it's an interesting take on the mythology that I haven't seen before, and do intend to go and see whether it's ever been referenced in such a fashion before, whether the author has come across some myth or whether they have changed it themselves. I don't know, but I do mean to look into that further. I'm interested to see what the witch portion of this book is going to be about. I also liked a certain revelation we had about one character, and it definitely seems to be getting more intriguing. It's almost like the story starts with two focuses of Florian and Evelyn. We follow their stories until they come together, and then we focus on their two stories, but we're hearing tidbits of information about the world and the way in which this world of piracy and ships works. Now we've got into the second part of the story, it seems to be expanding, and we're getting to see more threads of what was going on in the first part that maybe we weren't shown then. And I like that expansion of the world, and I'm intrigued to see how that's going to go over the next 260 pages. I do think that I'll be finishing this either today or tomorrow. I got up this morning and finished reading The Mermaid, the Witch and the Sea by Maggie Tokuda-Hall, and unfortunately I don't think I have the best opinion of this book. I've just recorded my review of it, and the more I think about this book, the more I recognise the things that I didn't like, and most of that surrounds this idea that everything feels very surface level and the author doesn't go into great enough depth in the themes that she is exploring. I liked that we got this sapphic love story. That was great. I like the representation within the novel. I think that some of the discussions that she tried to have were a bit surface level, a bit messy. I don't think they were done well, but I appreciate that the author tried to include them. I appreciated the twists and turns of it, but it also had it did feel like a debut, but not in a bad way, but also it's not a debut. The issue is an age thing. I have talked for years about how I have outgrown the young adult market, and it's written in a specific way. I don't wish to denigrate it. It's one of the whole reasons I stopped reading books targeted towards this age group. I know that if I'd read this in my late teens, then it would be 5-star, amazing. I will have been so glad to have I would have read this in one go and just recommended it to everybody. But I'm 31 now, and I look for different things in fiction. I am going to be donating this book to the charity shop probably. None of my friends want it. I do think that if you appreciate young adult literature, you might like this. I described it as something to take on your holidays with you and just read it in one sitting on the beach and not worry about the fact that there isn't really much depth to it. But there's some great ideas. I think that's the thing. I think I really liked some of the ideas that the author was having and some of the places that she took the tale, and I just wanted more from that. That being said, I don't actually know what I'm going to be reading next. I have ideas. I've got a bit of writing to do today. I wrote some in the notebook last night. I didn't get to bed until after 1 because everyone had washing to do. My dad came home last night from the hospital, and so we were all just catching up with each other. He's still not his best, but at least he's been released. He wasn't really having the best time in hospital. Due to his age, they put him on a ward that was full of older gentlemen. This only became an issue when my father realised that all of these other patients had dementia or Alzheimer's, and just due to the way in which these people were behaving, it's meant that whilst he's been in hospital, he hasn't really had any opportunity to rest, which doesn't really work well when you're trying to get over a severe infection. But he understands that the NHS is being treated terribly by the government at the moment, so the fact that he was actually able to get treated at all is a good thing indeed. I need to go and find something to read, get some writing done, and maybe practice some Italian today. I don't know. I also want to get out for a walk before it starts absolutely persisting down, but that's the day. It's Friday. Did not get the chance to come and speak to you yesterday and tell you all about the amazing time I had reading Sheets by Brenna Thummler. In my most recent video, which is a January favourites video, I talked about how I was enjoying the Books Unbound podcast, and they regularly mention Sheets in that podcast, and so I asked for it for my birthday last year, got it, only just now got around to reading it. It's a graphic novel in which we have, I can't remember the main character's name because I can only remember Wendell, the ghost. We have this girl who is working in a laundrette. I suppose they're called laundromats in America. I don't know. Is this Canadian? I can't remember. I'm terrible when it comes to that. All I know is I really like the colour palette, and this young girl was suffering from the grief of the loss of her mother, and then you had Wendell, who has escaped from the ghost world because he has not accepted that he's dead yet. And throughout the book we come to find out more about how Wendell died and what he's trying to escape from. Having learned more about the ghost, we then begin to explore the grief more, and there are some very poignant moments that discuss grief in a fashion that doesn't make it too maudlin, and it talks about remembering the dead and respecting the dead. I really like this one. I liked a certain subplot that we had going throughout. As I say, I really enjoyed the colour palette in this one. I liked the shift in tones when we went over to the ghost world as well. Yesterday I brought Miss Pettigrew Lives for the Day by Winifred Watson downstairs, but I didn't actually end up reading anything until, well, 9:30 in the evening is when I opened the book. I started reading it at 10 o'clock once I'd practiced some Italian, which I really need to go and do some more of in a minute. She's been employed as what she thinks is going to be this governess type character, and ends up at the house of this rather attractive young woman who is having a lot of man trouble, and this is some sort of drama that Miss Pettigrew has never been a part of, and so she's enjoying acting the part so far, and she's seen off a few of this woman's potential suitors. There's a lot more dialogue than there is description of what's going on, and I'm sure that I'm missing some things because I don't know what they're talking about in terms of the history, but I am enjoying this. It's making me smile, and I'm looking forward to reading some more of it this evening. Did a lot of walking yesterday too, which wasn't probably the best for the legs that still haven't got themselves sorted this week. But anyway, let's go practice some Italian. Today we are here just to draw a line under this video. It is Saturday. I did not finish reading Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day last night, although I did rewatch a lot of Last of the Summer Wine with my dad, and I spent the entire evening wondering if my grandmother or somebody owned this series on video or DVD, because I definitely knew these episodes a lot more than I thought that I did. My mother has only gone and developed a cold, and she's got this off the people at work. I have a very busy week ahead of me. I've got poems and pints trying to write, but honestly I don't think anyone wants to get ill, but like, if I catch something off my mother, you can be certain that I am not going to be a very nice person to be around. I don't like being ill. Again, nobody likes it, but some people might be kind, amenable, they might slow things down a bit. I get so grouchy about the fact that I am now ill that to speak to me is to dance with death. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen, because yesterday this cough I've had for a while seemed to resurface. Well, I don't think does it resurface? It seemed to be worse than it had been for a while, which led to some chest issues, which led to me now bringing an extra inhaler to work just in case. Not that you needed to know any of those things, I'm just letting you in on the situation over here. Did not finish reading Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day, and I think that this is going to be a one and done type book. I might finish it tonight. If not tonight, then tomorrow morning. I wanted to read ever since I saw the trailer for the film, which is another film that I haven't seen, but I do like the actress who stars in that, and plan to watch that one day. We have to remember that any of my plans when it comes to films could be this year or could be within the next lifetime. I don't know. That seems like a terrible thing to do to whoever is Charlie in the future, to just foist all of these films upon them and say, you need to complete these because I didn't. It's a book that is easy to fly through, but I feel like I'm kind of in the middle on it. It's kind of not meh, but it exists, and I can understand why people might look at this book and see how it might be showing changing attitudes towards women and towards the way that people behave, and it shows a bit of like this fight between people who were brought up really strictly in the faith and different attitudes to that, and also talks about playing a part a lot and how nobody is who they say they are. It's definitely not going to be a favourite, and it's definitely going to be returned to the shop upon being finished to it. Actually, I don't think that I bought it from this charity shop. I'm pretty sure I bought it when Charlie and I met up way back in October 2022. That's me. That's been my week, which really not the greatest week in terms of finding books that I have liked, but it has been a good week in terms of getting books off my shelves and the progress I've made with the writing of my own book. Sorry for talking about my legs so much. If you've read any of the books that I've mentioned in this video, then please feel free to discuss them in the comments. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, because until next time, that is all.